Welcome aboard the Virginia and Truckee Railroad. Today, we're taking a ride on this historic diesel train, traveling through the scenic landscapes of Nevada's rich mining country. Sit back and enjoy the journey as we explore one of the most iconic railroads in the American West. As we pull away from the station, the views instantly take us back in time. The Virginia and Truckee Railroad was built in the late 1800s during Nevada's mining boom. These tracks played a major role in transporting silver and gold from the Comstock lode, making this one of the most famous short lines in American history. Inside the train, the experience is just as remarkable. The vintage cars are filled with a sense of nostalgia, transporting us back to the golden age of rail travel. Whether you're a history enthusiast or simply looking for a unique adventure, the Virginia and Truckee offers an unforgettable experience. Families, train enthusiasts, and travelers from all over come here to experience the charm of this old-fashioned railroad. Along the route, keep your eyes peeled for historic landmarks. This stretch of track has seen countless trains, each carrying precious cargo and passengers through Nevada's mining towns. You can almost imagine the excitement and hustle of those times as we chug along. The Virginia and Truckee Railroad may have started as a lifeline for miners, but today it serves as a gateway to history for everyone who rides. The Virginia and Truckee Railroad continues to be a symbol of Nevada's rich history and offers a unique glimpse into the days of the Old West. Now you can listen to this wonderful person's explanations and interesting stories behind this historical tourist attraction throughout the journey.
This was by far the most famous short line railroad in American history, and without a doubt, it was the most prosperous short line railroad. We're going to have a nice little trip down to Goldville. The weather's been beautiful so far. This railroad was first constructed back in 1869, so that means this year we're exactly 155 years old. I know it looks like it, but no, we're not part of the original crew. Half those people are dead. Somebody got it. Explain the math to the rest of these people. The Bank of California had no choice. They had to build this railroad because they had repossessed too many mines. Now they had to come up with a way to get the ore all the way down to the Carson River Canyon, because that's where they would also build and own the only hydraulic stamp mills. Prior to this railroad, it used to take anywhere from 10 days to 2 weeks to make that trip by wagon. Take a good look at these Pullman postcards as we go by. They're now Hollywood famous, and I'm going to tell you exactly what movie they were in and how you can watch it when you get home tonight. But I'm not going to tell you yet. If you can see me, I'm pointing to the east. 1,000 yards to the east over there, you'll see a huge pile of dirt, and that's a big giveaway that it's a very deep mine. They started digging that mine in 1875, and it was called the Combination, because it actually was a joint venture of 3 individual companies. Those 3 companies worked together in that mine for 10 years. That's a lie. They worked together for about 10 minutes. After that, every day became contentious and there was no cooperation at all, and that's why they never made any money. When they gave up the digging, they were 30 feet short, being the deepest mine shaft in the whole world. 3,265 feet deep. Every single day, they pumped 2 million gallons of water out of the bottom just so they could go deeper. When they quit pumping the water, within 36 hours, so much water flowed back in and actually rose up to a depth of 2,400 feet, flooding a lot of these lower mines below. So what you ended up with over there was the deepest, most expensive, and totally worthless well in the entire world. The steel building right here is the Comstock Gold Mill, one of the very last mills built. Take a look at this wooden trestle as we go through it. Look how close the walls are. The trestle was placed there because there were mines on both sides of the tracks, and this allowed the miners to push their small ore cars right over to the center and then dump it. Please stay seated. No more moving, all right? No more moving, all right? Stop the train. A couple of superintendents working in these mines were John Mackey and James Fair. They went uptown and they very quietly began purchasing old abandoned mines all around the consolidated Virginia mine. And that's where 30 days later they would discover what everybody would call the big bonanza. They found a ledge of silver ore 40 feet, set a world record. At the time, silver had been assaying about $8 a ton. Well, almost overnight that price skyrocketed to $1,100. That made John Mackey very happy. It also made John Mackey very wealthy. Later, he would be very instrumental in the construction of both the transatlantic and trans-Pacific telegraph lines. Also, he would earn the nickname the mining millionaire of the Comstock, because after all those zillions of dollars came to him, he still would occasionally go down into the mines and work right alongside his crews. And that was brutal, difficult work. But Mackey was tough. And I think he was tough because of where he was born and raised. You guys familiar with the area of New York City called the Five Points? One of the worst slums of the entire world for a while. They said you used to have to fight your way in and then fight your way back out. That's where Mackey was from. Right over here is the beach where our shop is. It's exactly where it is, 155 feet. We're going under this little water tower, and yes, it most definitely is real. We use it every day that we run steam trains. Sadly, it never has been, and it probably never will be as much fun as the one on Petticoat Junction. There's a little hole in the ground right there. No big deal. Well, yeah, it kind of is a big deal, because it's almost under a track, 10 feet, 200 feet deep. That's the Julia mine. Named for Julia May. Julia, of course, is one of a small handful of what we're going to call sporting ladies. When she died, Virginia City actually waited almost a month for her funeral. The reason was because she had had so many people in public state that she found. They asked for no time. They didn't travel back to her. They found no stuff to do. Territorial enterprise at the time was a remarkable week. It probably was for everybody to do it. By the way, she was the only woman of that protection to be allowed burial. And they used to have to continuously move their final spot in that cemetery because it's not a State Route 341. Every year we close that highway for 2 days. We have a car race. Name of the event is the Virginia City Hill Climb. It's always well attended by, normally even sponsored by, the Ferrari Club of North America. Last year's winner was a woman. Yeah, she was driving a red Ferrari Spider. If you've never been on that mountain road, you're going to have to take my word for this. There are very few straight stretches over there, and they prosper at 122 miles an hour. Just incredible. Right here on both sides of the tracks, we have a couple of our state trees. We have pinyon pines and mountain juniper. These pinyon pines would offer up the staple for both the Washoe and Paiute Indian diets in the form of pine nuts. Can you guys think of anything that we still make with pine nuts? Pesto. Okay, how about this one? Why on earth do we harvest juniper berries from this little juniper tree? Sit. There we go. Now I got to go back up here to the end of the train, and if anybody stands up one more time, I'm going to turn the power off to this microphone. It becomes a very effective club. I'm going to try very hard to adequately describe what life was like for a miner. Ready? Horrible. Every mine of any depth had air temperatures of 140 degrees, and they all had water. The water temperature would be 190. These guys could only work 15 minutes. They'd actually start to slump. If they were lucky, somebody'd come along and throw water on them, and then they'd go right back to work, because at the end of that shift, they were going to be paid $4, and that made them by far the highest paid miners in the world. $3 paid for their room for a week. 25 cents would get them a complete steak dinner and dessert. 10 cents would get them a fresh hot bath once a week. Here's another thing 10 cents would get them. Out here in the wicked west, there used to be an elixir called laudanum. Laudanum consisted of 90% alcohol and 10% opium. Why the hell doesn't CBS sell that? I was more than willing to wait in line for that 4-foot receipt as long as I was going to get to leave with some laudanum. Here comes our first tunnel of the day. This is tunnel number 4. There were 6 tunnels for the original BNT. This tunnel is 413 feet long. This is definitely not our longest tunnel. Tunnel number 2, down in Elephant Flat, is 600 feet long. I like to call this the intelligence quotient tunnel. Just a little while. Never fail. Never fail. When they were digging all these tunnels, they would hold my hands just fixing shovels. And in spite of that, we could still average almost 18 inches a day. Once we clear the tunnel, running right alongside us here, you're going to see a little dirt road. That's actually part of the original toll road in Virginia City. Last summer, I had a nice little family visiting from New York City, and they were sitting down here pretty close. I began to talk about the toll road, and all of a sudden I noticed this lady just violently shaking her head, so I had to ask her why. She said, well, I don't believe the horse would ever go up anything that steep. I said, well, yeah, they did. And they had to drag a stagecoach on, or a freight wagon. You were going to buy it. Well, obviously I'm not going to argue with her, right? So I just thought to myself, apparently they don't have anything quite like that in Central Park. In a minute, we're going to get up here and go around what's left of tunnel number 3. You'll see why we're going to go around it. We tried for a couple of years to open this tunnel up, and just couldn't do it. Right back here past these green trees, you'll see what's left of Tunnel Creek. That's why we're now on a permanent detour, or shoe fly as it's called, going around that tunnel. The good news is this little shoe fly allows us to work our way right down into Gold Hill. There's still some prominent buildings that are down here too. First one you're going to notice will be the long sloping steel roof of the Crown Point Hill. This is the Crown Point Hill. When you get home, go on YouTube and look up the Crown Point Hill. They'll show you the inside of it. Then they're going to explain how they would extract the gold and silver out of the quartz. The Gold Hill Hotel and Saloon down there is one of the finest of the Old West. That is the oldest hotel in continuous operation in the entire state of Nevada. The last building in the block is where the Bank of California was. 3 months after they completed this railroad, the boys from that bank enjoyed a profit. $400,000. And they enjoyed that. They turned it out to be almost $74 million. You're going to see a little bell hanging in a tower right here. That bell used to hang above the Liberty Firehouse, located just down the highway a couple of blocks. Anybody want to try and guess what happened to that firehouse? Sit down. Oh, burning down would have been a great story. Actually, one day, high wind just blew it over. All we have left is that bell. This sound system was also built in 1869, and it works about as frequently as the rest of the people up here do. If you ever get by these big green trees, you're going to be able to look up over your shoulders and you're going to see where the very first major gold discoveries were made back in 1869, and that's why the whole area finally became known as Gold Hill. That little Gold Hill depot that we just passed was sold by the B&T to Story County in 1948, and they paid the grand sum of $1. 48 was pretty much the end of the line for the B&T. That's when they began to sell off all of the assets. Now that little depot has been completely rebuilt on the inside, and we use it for a lot of great events. If you guys come back for the Christmas holidays, we're going to bring you down here on what we call a Candy Cane Express. We're going to stop at that depot, but at that point it has been magically transformed into Santa's Toy Shop. And you'll actually see the elves outside building all the toys. And then Santa Claus is going to come out onto that platform, and he's going to greet each one of the little kids on the train by their first name. Yep. Only the magic of the B&T could do that. I hope his sound system is working. There were a whole bunch of very famous mines right here in Gold Hill. If you guys want to talk about all of them, somebody would quickly order about 20 pizzas and you guys can hang out till Wednesday afternoon. We'll do it. There were a number of famous mines. As a matter of fact, we just passed one. Right here on the hill behind us. Can you guys all see that horseshoe? Kind of looks like the world's most uncomfortable playground slide. That is the Cane Tunnel. And anywhere else in the world, they would call that the Kentucky Mine. That's actually where John Mackey and his partners first became owners of a mine, and here's all they had to do. First, they would work that horrible, brutal 8-hour shift and make you pay $4. Then, they'd work another 8-hour shift. This time they would be paid in what was called feet, and a foot simply was one share of ownership. By working a whole bunch of double shifts, Mackey and his partners became the owners. And then luckily for them, over the next few years, that was one of the most productive mines of the whole Comstock. When it was done, in today's money, that little mine would have yielded about $800 million in gold and silver. The most famous mine of Gold Hill is that one right down there. There's a structure down there, kind of looks like it's been dipped in concrete, and it's got some big flywheel looking things on the top of it. Well, those are part of the hoist mechanism. That's the Yellow Jacket mine. Every bit of its fame and notoriety came as a result of the worst mining disaster to ever hit Nevada's industry. On the morning of April 7th, 1869, at 7 a.m., a fire broke out, 800 feet below the surface. Sadly, 35 miners had already gone way down beyond that point. They were now at the bottom of that mine, getting ready to go to work. Long story short, all 35 died in the fire. The fire burned for 3 years, too. When it was finally safe enough to go in, of the 35 miners that had been lost, they could actually only recover 26 bodies. I tell that story 7 times a day, and every once in a while it's like it's just as sad as the first time I ever read it. And every once in a while I think, maybe you shouldn't tell them that story. Maybe you should save that story for the Christmas time. Or not. Get everybody reseated. We'll start that return trip. There you go.
Thank you for joining us on this ride through history. We hope you enjoyed the journey as much as we did. Be sure to like and subscribe for more travel adventures on the rails and beyond.